Welcome to the Resilience Project Podcast with your host, leading the men's movement, Abdul Rabarbi.
Welcome to the Resilience Project Podcast, built for men who have been through the fire and who are really ready to rise up stronger. I'm your host, Abdul, founder of this movement, coach, father, and a man who actually has lived through the pain, heartbreak, and the kind of setbacks and conversations that most people never talk about, especially the struggling men who refuse to speak out. You see, this podcast isn't about the hype. It's not about hype. It's about having real conversations. Yes, and to experience real growth and real transformation, providing you the tools that you need to acquire to implement into your life with our support. And we go deep into the topics, the subjects of mindset transformation, transformation with purpose, and how to rebuild your life from the inside out. But more importantly, that this is a movement, a mission to give struggling men a voice. Struggling men a voice, and to lead the unheard voices of struggling men to be heard by the people, by the communities, by society, perhaps maybe by the government within itself. Because too many men are struggling, suffering in silence, especially after divorce. When divorce hits them to a position of being at the rock bottom. But we are changing that. We are rewriting the narrative. We are rewriting the story, because everybody is living in their own story, and it's time to edit the story that you are living with. It's time to rewrite your story, changing the narrative. If you're a dad who's been basically knocked down to your knees, losing hope, then this space is for you. You must tune in, because you are not broken. This is only the beginning. You're just in the phase, the transitional phase into the rebuild mode. And with our help, we will help you, support you to rebuild with resilience. You will become unshakable, like a lean green machine. And today I want to share with you a sobering truth. In 2023, 3,214 Australians died by suicide, and three out of four were actually men the age of about 45 years of age. I will provide you the source of this information. I will provide you also the source of this information, a link below. Now that means that suicide is perhaps could be the leading cause of premature deaths in this country, this great land, Australia. Maybe not cancer, maybe not heart disease, but suicide. And it's hitting men at their prime time age, whether they're dads, husband, mates, friends, family, especially those who are navigating through divorce, job loss, or the loss of identity crisis. You see, this podcast exists not because of those numbers, actually. This exists because of these numbers. And these numbers are not just statistics. They're actually stories. There's a story behind each one of these numbers, behind each one of these statistics. These are lives. These are men. These were husbands. These are fathers. And if you're listening, you're not alone. You've been heard. We are listening. We've seen the heartbreaks. We've lived in your shoes, and we're here to rebuild together with strength, purpose, and resilience. Now, what I want to do is that I want to share the actual source. So if you're perhaps watching on YouTube, if you have not subscribed to our YouTube channel, I'll leave the link below, and just gonna share the source of information over here. And here we go. And there are many sources, but I'll share one of the source of information. And this is coming from The Guardian. And this same information can also be found under the Australian Bureau of Statistics. Yeah, so they have extracted that from the Australian Bureau of Statistics. I'm going to highlight here. If you can see this one here, suicide remained the leading cause of premature death in 2023 at a rate of 12.1 per 100,000 people. 3 in 4 people who died from suicide were male. Through men who lived in remote Australia were twice as likely to die from suicide as men in capital cities. The 2023 data for males through those still premature was higher than 2020 rates. So they were actually higher than going back in 2020. The median age of people who died by suicide was 45 compared to 82 for all deaths. Though this decreased to 33 among Indigenous Australians. I'm going to leave the link here. It's very important that we do provide source of information as well. I have a very important question. Since this is the first episode of our second season on the Resilience Project, the question to you: are we doing enough? Are we doing enough? Are the people doing enough? Are the communities doing enough? Are we as men, are we also doing enough? These are the difficult questions that we must pose, that we must ask. Are we taking enough responsibility? Are we taking also enough accountability? I certainly believe that most men know what they want, that most men are struggling to get back up on the bandwagon and push forward, but they just don't know how to. And because of this, they lose focus. Their paths are multiplied and lost. So they end up going towards distractions, external environmental distractions, the overconsumption or abusive of intoxication of alcohol and drugs, leading them into a very dark place. So are we doing enough? More importantly, I want to pose this question: do you believe that the government is doing enough? Do you believe that there could be more support from the government? I want to know your answer. I want to know your thoughts around this, because the countless of lives that have been impacted among struggling men who are sincere and genuine men who really want to make a difference, who are genuine men, good moral men, but end up being stuck in a vicious cycle, stuck in the rut. They want to make a difference, but they don't know where to begin. They get stuck. So they consume alcohol, they consume drugs just to numb the pain, to forget the pain, only leading them to becoming homeless, suicidal thoughts, losing their mind, and many of them committing suicide. Not only the statistics speak for themselves, we will share more statistics in our future episodes. But as for you, the listener, who do you think is responsible, and who do you think is partially responsible? Do you think that we are doing enough? Do you think that the laws of the country that you reside in, that there are certain individuals who are taking the laws for a ride, milking the law to their advantage, meaning abusing their rights in order to abuse their partners and their husbands? Because I can tell you, as a coach, as a individual who is constantly in discussions with struggling men, there are many men who have been working, investing into their homes and their families and their children and their wives, building their homes. 20, 30 years later, they get kicked out of their homes and they have nothing to live with except their clothes, maybe their car. In a lot of cases, they end up being homeless. They spent 15, 20 plus years building an empire, only to know is that now they have been kicked out from their own homes. They have nothing to their names, and they worked for every dollar, every cent, every penny towards building an empire, building their homes, investing into their homes, buying, rebuilding, and building. 100% investment only from the fathers, only from the men who end up with nothing. Does that sound like to you a fair deal, a fair system? These are the tough questions that we have to ask. We need to stop sugarcoating the facts. We need to pose and lay down the questions in raw information. Now, I am not saying that this happens to every man out there, but there is enough statistics, enough numbers out there to say that this is happening way too often. And what do you think? What do you believe in? I would love to know what your thoughts are around this. And if you haven't subscribed to this channel, I urge you to subscribe to support us, for us to support the struggling men and the struggling voices, to continue to provide you not only the support and content, but the tools and the resource, and to continue this mission, this bold mission that we are working towards to impact or transform 5,000 plus lives amongst struggling men within the next 5 years, and we are working tirelessly. Get in the comments below, share this video. Let's begin to work together and to rebuild lives and to allow the struggling voices to get out there. We are leading this movement, and I will see you on the next video.